Do you think that the recommendations of 14th Finance Commission have somewhat succeeded in achieving cooperative federalism in India?
Um, Let me at the outset say that you did in your introduction mention that the 14th Finance Commission did a massive increase of 10 percentage points
Yes.
in the tax devolution. Well, in terms of numbers, you are right. There is a 10 percentage point increase in the tax devolution. But if you really look at it very carefully, this is not really the case.
Okay.
Now, what has really happened is that, when the Finance Commission was deliberating, the terms of reference of the Finance Commission did not make a distinction between non-plan and plan.
Yes.
The previous commissions gave only non-planned, expenditure requirements of the states. So we had to take it on the plan side. That means that we had to actually give the grants which the Planning Commission was giving earlier, and that had to be a part of our recommendation.
Yes.
That was somewhere about 6% of the divisible pool. So from 32, it became 38.
Yes.
And then the Commission decided that it will not make any discretionary grants other than the revenue deficit grants and national calamity relief and local body grants. The previous commissions had given a lot of money for forest and education, healthcare, and a variety of discretionary grants they had given. And this commission decided that it will not. In fact, the 13th Finance Commission went on to give some 100 crores for a medical college in Haryana, 50 crores for a governor's house in Tripura, 150 crores for lake rejuvenation in Karnataka, 150 crores sea erosion in Tamil Nadu, and so on and so forth. Several grants they had given. We completely, we desisted from doing this type of discretionary grants.
Yeah.
So the money saved that on that account was almost something like 1.5% of the discretionary pool. So the distinction is between 39.5% and 42%, and not really 32 to 42%. This is something which I have had several times I had to say. Then the question comes, why did you increase from 32%, even if this thing there is a marginal increase, why did you do that? So what we did was we looked at the recommendation, we looked at the expenditure pattern of the states and the center. And if you really look at it from 2002 to 2005, 2005 to 2012,
Yes.
if one looked at the expenditure pattern, the central government or the union government spending on the state subjects in the constitution had increased from 14% to 20%. Now, union government spending on concurrent subjects had increased from 13 to 17%. Why should you not let the state government to spend on their subjects as decided in the constitution? Why should the union government come and spend it?
Yes.
So the point is, union government should focus itself on the union subjects rather than trying to influence the voters in the state subjects. It's easy for the union government to come and make spending through centrally sponsored schemes, because this is where you can go to the electorate and say that, look, I am spending on you. It is not your state government spending on you. Basically, it's a sort of a vote catching strategy. So we thought that the state governments have to legitimately spend more on the state subjects, and therefore we should give greater flexibility.
Yes.
I mean, even when you have the centrally sponsored schemes, it can be way of grants.
Yes.
But then they don't have flexibility. It is not an untied grant. So and therefore, we increased it by 2.5 percentage points. So it's not really that we have made a massive increase. So in some ways, I think this was an act of rebalancing. We did this act of rebalancing.
Yes.
Of course, the central government has always complained that we have gone well beyond what they wanted us to do.
Yes.
But then the Finance Commission is an independent body; it is supposed to do. However, you should also realize that this Finance Commission is only one of the instruments Finance Commission giving you transfer. The total amount of money, the decision on the total amount of money to be given to the states is decided by the central government itself.
Yes.
And that has not changed. In fact, if you look at it, something like the 60% of the state central revenues are generally, the tax revenues generally go to the states. That is, for both the Finance Commission's transfers and other transfers. So that has not changed. What happened immediately was, immediately after the recommendations were made, the untied transfer to the states increased, flexibility to the states increased to that extent, but then the central government was not satisfied with that. The recommendation, the implementation of the recommendation coincided with the sharp reduction in the petroleum prices.
Yes.
The international price of crude. What the central government did is to levy additional excise duties on it, and any discretionary changes that they made is through cesses and surcharges. So to a considerable extent, and these are not shareable with the states. And to a considerable extent, what the Finance Commission did through increased tax devolution, they undid through increasing taxes which only go to the center. And as a subsequent period, even the centrally sponsored scheme, they had a committee which basically made a recommendation. They appointed a committee to rationalize the centrally sponsored schemes, and that committee, there were about 66 schemes. They reduced it to 29 umbrella schemes, and then classified the schemes into sort of core of the core and optional. And increase the state share in these schemes. Earlier, for example, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, the center used to pay 75% and the states used to pay 25%. Now, most of the things have been reduced to 60-40.
Indeed.
Okay. Now, and in other words, they increase the share of the states. So, our attempt at rebalancing and giving a larger proportion of untied transfers could a considerable extent, done away with, sort of nullified through some of these measures. But nevertheless, I think the states were happy, and and I thought, there was a lot of hue and cry at the time. Many of the people saying that, now, centrally sponsored schemes on education, healthcare, and all that will vanish, and and then obviously the money, the state will not make adequate allocation to social sector, and that was not found to be true. States continue to make substantial allocation to the social sector. It's another thing that what allocation is made is not enough because they don't have the money. That's a different issue. But basically, one, it is not that Finance Commission did something very unusual, and we did only a marginal increase, but to a considerable extent that has been nullified by the actions of the state. So in other words, you see, you need much more robust institutional mechanism for spirit. Fiscal federalism, cannot be done by one institution called the Finance Commission.
Seriously, indeed. Because, sir, it's a zero-sum game. If you increase the share of the states, obviously the center share already come down. So that's a great point, sir. It gave more clarity.